Welcome back. So, today we are diving straight into a massive, and I mean massive, shift happening right now in the AI landscape, and it's all centered around NVIDIA's Nemotron 3 models. Now, for the longest time, we've known NVIDIA for the hardware, right? They make the GPUs that are literally powering this global AI gold rush. But today, we're going to unpack how they're moving way beyond just supplying the picks and shovels, and stepping right into building the actual brains of the operation.
Now, you've probably asked yourself this fascinating question. We know they dominate the hardware space, but what exactly happens when the company designing the chips starts releasing their own, highly optimized open-weight AI models? Well, it completely forces us to look at NVIDIA through a brand new lens. They are no longer just the engine room of AI, they are rapidly becoming the architects of the software itself. And that brings us directly to Nemotron 3. This is an incredibly powerful family of open-weight models, and that term, open-weight, is absolutely vital to understand here. It means the usual barriers to entry, they just drop. Instead of paying a toll to some massive cloud provider every single time you query a model, you can actually download the model weights directly. You hold the keys to your own data, and you can run these systems entirely on your own infrastructure without those incredibly frustrating recurring fees.
So where did this all kick off? The baseline for this entire ecosystem started with the Nemotron 3 8B foundation model. It launched featuring 8 billion parameters and a 4,096 token context length. Now, I know 8 billion parameters might sound kind of small compared to the absolute giants we're going to talk about in just a minute, but this was a really strategic foundation. It was designed from the ground up to integrate seamlessly with NVIDIA's existing enterprise frameworks, basically letting companies start building custom models without needing, supercomputer-level resources.
Right, so this initial model actually took a fork in the road and was split into two distinct paths. Think about it. If you're a company with highly specific proprietary data, like a legal firm or a medical research lab, you'd grab the base model and fine-tune it to your exact professional needs. But on the flip side, if you just need a highly capable assistant right out of the box, the Chat SFT or supervised fine-tuning version was pre-trained to follow instructions and basically ready to deploy on day one.
But fast forward to the 2026 update, and wow, the AI landscape shifted entirely. NVIDIA dramatically escalated the scale and the capabilities of the Nemotron 3 family, moving way beyond that initial foundation and introducing a whole new tier of tech titans.
Just look at this rapid-fire release schedule. It's a relentless cadence. Starting at the very end of 2025 with the Nano, they quickly followed that up with the Super in March of 2026. Then came the absolute massive Ultra model announced in June, and finally, the specialized Embed model dropping in July. They clearly designed this timeline to target every different tier and function across the entire AI ecosystem.
Okay, the absolute key to understanding how they achieved this massive scale is the mixture of experts architecture. Take the supermodel, for example. It holds 120 billion total parameters in its memory, but for any given word it processes, it only activates 12 billion of them. In the Ultra, it hits a staggering 550 billion total parameters, but only uses 55 billion per token. Basically, instead of firing up the entire massive network for every single computation, which would it would definitely melt your average server rack, it smartly routes your query only to the specific experts needed. It keeps compute costs incredibly efficient.
To really put the scale into perspective, let's look at the smallest of these titans, the Nano. It features a 1 million token context window. That means it can process the data equivalent of an entire book in one single gulp. At 30 billion parameters, you don't have to painstakingly break your data down into tiny, manageable chunks anymore. You can just feed whole legal documents, sweeping financial reports, or even entire code bases directly in, and the model grasps the full picture instantly.
Moving up the chain, we hit the 120 billion parameter supermodel, which is specifically targeted at complex research tasks. In fact, it currently sits at the very top, holding the #1 spot on the Deep Research Bench leaderboard. So when a user needs a system to autonomously dig through complex datasets, cross-reference dense academic papers, and synthesize entirely novel insights, this is the model specifically optimized for that kind of deep analytical reasoning. And then we have the absolute powerhouse, the Ultra. Scoring a massive 48 on the Artificial Analysis Intelligence Index, it officially stands as the strongest US-developed open-weight model out there right now, beating out heavy-hitting competitors like Gemma 4. This highlights a really interesting reality for us. When you tightly couple your software design with the underlying hardware capabilities, you can yield benchmark scores that rival even the most heavily funded closed-source models on the market.
Rounding out this entire massive ecosystem is the Embed model, which just dropped in July 2026. It currently dominates the RTEB leaderboard for Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG. You can essentially think of this model as the perfect librarian for your AI. If your agent needs to accurately fetch data from your private internal company databases, Embed makes sure it pulls the exact right facts at the exact right time. This is absolutely crucial because it drastically reduces those pesky AI hallucinations.
Now, before we look at the big picture of why this matters, we really need to nail down a specific concept: agentic AI. This is the primary driving focus behind those super and ultra models, and it's a major paradigm shift. An agentic AI isn't just a passive chatbot waiting for your next prompt. No, it's designed to act independently. It can actually make plans, utilize outside tools, and execute multi-step processes to achieve complex goals entirely on its own. The whole shebang.
So, let's pull this all together. Why does the Nemotron 3 family truly matter to us? Well, you are getting a highly accurate hybrid Mamba transformer architecture, a dedicated agentic focus, and a commercial license completely free of API charges. Actually, that hybrid architecture is honestly a pretty wild technical feat on its own. It brilliantly blends the lightning-fast processing speed of Mamba with the deep contextual accuracy of traditional transformers. Pair that efficiency with autonomous capabilities and zero API fees, and it presents a highly attractive, game-changing scenario for enterprise deployment.
If you're sitting there thinking, I want to get my hands on this right now, the accessibility is amazing. You can literally grab the raw weights for free over on Hugging Face today. You can spin them up effortlessly via the NVIDIA NIM microservice, or just query them through community platforms like OpenRouter. And hey, if you have the hardware sitting at home or in your server rack, you can run them completely locally using software like LM Studio. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a pretty massive question to chew on. With NVIDIA unleashing 550 billion parameter models for free commercial use, which Nemotron will you try first? And more importantly, how is this open weight revolution going to reshape the software world as we know it? Because when top-tier AI software becomes freely available, the playing field is literally leveled. Thank you so much for joining me to unpack all of this and keep exploring this incredibly fast-paced world of artificial intelligence. Catch you next time.